Okay, Michael, we're live. You may begin whenever you're ready.
Michael, we
All
can't.
right. Am I going to start, Sean?
Yes, you're ready to start.
All right. Welcome tonight to everybody to February 17th full design review board meeting. I'm calling us to a quorum. I am having some internet issues, so if for some reason I fall off, one of my vice chairs will just have to take over. Do I hear a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Mike Beal, second.
Did we lose him?
Sorry, guys. Did I hear a motion?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Any against? All right. Motion passes. Staff, how many members do we have? Because I cannot see who is here.
We have 8 out of the 9 members.
Great. All right. Motion passes 8 out of 9. So is the only person not here Camelia?
It's Brian.
Oh, Brian? Okay.
No,
I
I'm
can't
here.
see. Okay, great. I can't see anything, so I apologize. All right. Do we have any last meeting minutes to approve, staff?
Yes, we have November 18th, November 25th, December 2nd, December 9th, December 16th, January 6th, January 13th, January 27th, February 3rd, and February 10th meeting minutes.
Oh my goodness. All right. I hope somebody heard all of those and has a motion to approve.
Mike B will make that motion.
All right. Do I hear a second?
Emily will second.
All right. Emily seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0. And then now I'm looking for any general member comments that do not apply to the meeting tonight. Is there anybody who has a general member comment? I do not see any raised hands or anything in the chat. All right, so we can jump into tonight's agenda. So up first, we have a work session for Lake Ann Rest and Condo Association about HVAC and kind of a proposal on how they're going to tackle their new HVAC problems. So there's a representative here from there.
I've asked them to unmute.
Michael, while we're doing that, just to confirm, there are members who probably will have comment on this work session. Do you want to allow them to make comment before or after the presentation for LARCA?
Let's hear it after, just because that's our typical order. So let's hear the presentation, so then we're all familiar with what's going on, and then they can speak afterwards, and then we'll ask questions.
Will do. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Did you want us to go ahead and start, Cam?
Yep, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you for giving us the time to present this. As you guys might be aware, RELAC has gone out of business, and Lake Ann is now looking into the options we have for our community or each unit owner to be able to install an HVAC unit. We have hired a mechanical engineer who's present and a structural engineer. Ken is the structural engineer who put this presentation together. So I'm going to go ahead and let him speak on it. And then if you guys have any questions, I'm the community manager, Vanessa Lazo. Okay.
Evening, everyone. Thank you again for having us. I'm Ken Castiva with Wishtani Elsner Associates. We have been retained by LARCA to review structural capacity of the existing building as it relates to the installation of air conditioning systems at the 3 buildings at Lake Ann. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So just a bit of background information. As Vanessa mentioned, RELAC was the sole provider for air conditioning for the 3 buildings at Lake Ann. In October of last year, RELAC ceased its operations and informed Lake Ann that they would no longer be providing services. And in December of 25, as you all know, Reston Association took action to permit individual HVAC installation, subject, of course, to the design guidelines. And what LARCA is really seeking as part of this approval would be a community-wide solution rather than having individual residents make applications to Reston Association, where LARCA is seeking approval of a community-wide solution that would allow residents to be able to install their own HVAC assemblies without needing to go through the full design review process. So if we could, to the next slide, please. Thank you. This is just an overview of Lake Ann. The 3 buildings are Heron House, Quayside, and Chimney House. And we'll present a proposed solution for each of those. If we could go to the next slide, please. So the Quayside property, which is located immediately west of the lake, is a series of low-rise buildings. And we are proposing the installation of heat pumps on the roof of the buildings. And we have some photos that show perspectives of the building and highlight some existing systems that are already in place that are similar to what's being proposed. What's shown on the slide is the plan view of the Quayside buildings and then the proposed approximate locations in blue for new heat pumps. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So these are a series of photos showing views of Quayside from the plaza. Again, we anticipate that these are the historically significant views that should be preserved for these properties. And then if we could go to the next photo, please. These are a couple of views from the parking lot that's to the west of the Quayside property. And what we're highlighting in orange is that there are already existing assemblies on the roofs of these buildings that are very similar to what's being proposed. And the impact from the plaza view is minimal to none at all, but they are somewhat visible from the adjacent parking lot, which is at a higher elevation than the building. If we could, to the next slide, please. Thank you. This is the Chimney House roof plan. The concept here is the same in that we're highlighting proposed rooftop unit or heat pump installation locations. The areas that are shown as larger blocks along the straight runs of the building are not to indicate that there would be heat pumps at all of those locations, but just to indicate that those are the spots along the length of the building near the midpoint of the depth of the units where we would propose to install heat pumps. If we could, to the next slide, please. Similar vantages here from the, again, from the plaza looking toward the buildings. If we could, to the next couple of slides. Overall view of the Chimney House property, and then to the last Chimney House slide, please. Thank you. These, again, same concept as we illustrated for Quayside. These are locations where there are already rooftop units, specifically heat pumps in the right of the photo that's highlighted, that are in place in locations that are, again, very similar to those that we're proposing. And then to Heron House, if we could. So Heron House is a much more complicated review and far more complicated from a needs and mechanical limitations standpoint. So our role as the structural engineer was to complete feasibility studies to evaluate proposed installations. We reviewed multiple different systems, including putting a series that would be 60 plus heat pumps on the roof, and then also potentially installing larger building-wide cooling system. Obviously, that would be cooling towers on the roof with an associated chiller in the basement of the assembly. We did determine that the roof does have sufficient space to support those assemblies, but both would require dunnage. The heat pumps, obviously significantly less dunnage. Cooling towers being placed on the roof would require the installation of significant steel dunnage, and we also believe would be visible from the plaza and from the lake. The most significant findings really are mechanical and electrical in nature. Based on feedback from the mechanical engineer, we've been informed that neither of the two solutions that we evaluated, again, those being a series of heat pumps installed on the roof or the installation of cooling towers and a chiller, are feasible from a mechanical and electrical standpoint. If we could to the next slide, please. Thank you. What is being proposed is the installation of mini split systems on the balconies. The mini splits would be enclosed with something similar to what you see in these graphic representations. The systems are very small, rotary driven equipment that would be housed in small benches or similar louvered assemblies that could be painted to match or closely match the exterior colors at Herrenhaus. These would be associated obviously with interior air handling equipment that would be placed at the same location where the existing equipment is. And then obviously those two systems will be joined in order to perform. And again, these units would be placed on the balconies of all of the units. It would be individual systems for individual apartments. If we could to the last couple of slides, please. Thank you. These are not necessarily the exact systems that would be installed, but are representative. Traditional heat pump shown at the left, and then a mini split system shown at the right. And the last slide, if we could, please. Thank you. These are the proposed supports for the heat pump installations at Chimney House and Quayside. The low profile pad on the right would obviously provide a lower elevation for the heat pumps and reduce visibility. And then the alternate system would be to use a pad that has integrated supports that's specifically designed for heat pump installation. So that's our proposed solutions that we're putting forth. Vanessa, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add.
That is our presentation. We do have the mechanical engineer present. If anybody has any questions for him, we have David present as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. I'm going to hear from the affected, or I guess interested parties at this moment for a work session. And then we will have the board go around and ask some questions. So staff, do you have a list of people, or are people just supposed to put their name in the chat? How do you guys want to handle it?
We do have a list, and if we miss anyone, any resident can raise their hand and we can recognize them. Just wanted to make sure that they state their full name and then their address for the record.
Okay.
All right. So first we have Eve Thompson.
And then, sorry, just a reminder, just because this is a work session and since we have an agenda to keep, if we could, for the parties will want to limit time to 3 minutes. If you're representing a group, we could have 5 minutes, but if you could keep the time to 3 minutes, and I can extend if we are still having a good discussion. So
yes, thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Eve Thompson. I live at 11400 Washington Plaza West, Unit 403. I just really want to make one key request to the Design Review Board regarding this discussion. Right now, we are looking at replacing what was a centralized system in a 15-story multifamily building, which is a major infrastructure decision with long-term consequences for safety, for performance, for building envelope integrity. noise, condensation, and resale value. My concern is not about any one solution, mini splits versus any other option. Although I certainly don't like the idea of losing my balcony to a mini split. My concern is that the building and the board, I think, is driving us towards a preferred solution of mini splits before we've done any of the basic professional work that should come first. To my knowledge, we have not fully engaged a paid consultant, licensed MEP engineering consulting firm, and there has been no architectural oversight to evaluate the impacts to the exterior envelope of the building, penetrations to the building, drainage, structural loads, and I guess structural loads have been looked at, but long-term maintainability. In a building like ours, HVAC is not a simple appliance swap. It is a building system. And once we commit to a path, we're looking at locking ourselves into decades of consequences, including hidden costs and future failures that are far more expensive than doing this correctly up front. I respectfully ask the Design Review Board to formally recommend that the condo retain a qualified MEP engineering consultant who would work with architectural oversight to do a full requirements assessment and feasibility of all viable options, including impact to the existing infrastructure, electrical capacity, ventilation, code compliance, and the long-term cost of ownership. That way, the building owners can make an informed decision based on engineering, not preference. And unit owners can have the confidence that the chosen approach is the best fit for our specific structure. I want to thank you for your time. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Eve.
All right, next we have Nan Dearborn.
Hi, I'm Nan Dearborn. My husband and I own and live in a lovely unit in Heron House. As you know, Heron House is a 16-story condo high-rise. It's a historically designated building in a historically protected area, and an excellent example of brutalist architecture. Relac's demise is forcing us to replace our building-wide air conditioning system. Estimates for replacing our HVAC system come to almost $3 million at a minimum. It will have long-term impact on our historically designated building. Given this, LARCA owners deserve thorough independent analysis by a qualified MEP consulting firm before eliminating options or making permanent decisions. So far, the process has been inadequate. For example, the slideshow LARCA is going to present tonight, or that they just did present, does not cover variable refrigerant flow systems. VRF seems ideally suited for buildings like Heron House. It would have the least visible impact on our architecture because VRF would not require placing HVAC equipment on our balconies. Instead, the outside units would be located on Heron House's roof. LARCA has not adequately evaluated the VRF or related HVRF option. The slideshow that they just showed only covers heat pumps and mini splits. It shows a heat pump mini split condenser on a balcony or patio. But the photos for Heron House are misleading because they do not show how multiple insulated refrigerant lines would get through our wall-to-wall and floor-to-ceiling walls of glass. 4 of the 5 floor plans do not have any other wall between the balcony and that unit's interior. Modifying the original walls of glass would require DRB approval and would be quite expensive. The photos do not show the multiple 2-inch diameter insulated refrigerant lines and a condenser drain line. These multiple lines could well be visible from the ground and would be quite conspicuous from inside. This could easily create an eyesore. And they did not accurately depict the required clear space around the condenser, including space between the condenser, the back wall, and screening. We're looking at a multi-million-dollar project. Such an expensive project with long-term ramifications merits a comprehensive independent analysis of the VRF and related options by a qualified MEP firm. I am asking you, the members of the DRB, to postpone any action until LARCA provides a thorough independent analysis of multiple options by a qualified MEP consulting firm.
Great, thank you.
Okay, next we have, give me 1 second. Martha?
Yes, that's correct. Good evening. My name is Martha McGrath. I live in Heron House, Unit 503. I share the concerns being expressed by others tonight and concur with their comments and suggestions. So I'm not going to be redundant and repeat everything you just heard. I feel strongly that LARCA and our board of directors be required, I will, however, restate this, required to engage an independent consulting firm specializing in MEP engineering and HVAC design, specifically for Heron House, which is a unique historic 16-floor property. The solution for our building may well be different from the rest of the property and from the balcony located heat pump system suggested. Other options are available that have not been studied. My biggest concern is that unit owners will proceed with quick individual solutions, potentially compromising not only aesthetics, but also the functionality of the building as a whole. In addition to 15 floors of occupied units, we have 16 floors of common space. Any viable solution will have to include all of this space. In my opinion, it's important that only one solution be adopted for everyone, complete with detailed specifications for installation. This installation should only be done by approved vendors and overseen by a project manager. One last thing. We were advised that management intends to send a survey to all owners asking which of two solutions they prefer. There is presently not enough information for such a survey to be informative. I suggest any survey be delayed until all options are studied. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Christina present? If you are present, please raise your hand.
That would be Tina Magnon. Yeah.
Thank you. Tina, sending you a prompt to unmute.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, I want to make a correction. The presentation we got from David, although greatly appreciated, he is a vendor of HVAC systems with a degree in mechanical engineering. He is not an independent consultant. Additionally, he is a unit owner in Heron House, and by our bylaws, we cannot hire a unit owner to do work for the building. So I echo all the concerns that were previously given. Just want to make one more comment that was not picked up. Several of us have gone out and already talked to other vendors, and they will not address our building or requirements unless they have a full HVAC design that includes the common area. We got no input on how the common area was going to be addressed or how the commercial unit in our building will be addressed. The current central system supports all residential units, the commercial unit, and the common space. Without good conditioning, within the building, our lower units are going to be vulnerable to cold, and our upper units are going to be vulnerable to excessive heat. I do request that because of the extent of this project and the cost of it, that the DRB board discount the presentation related to the Heron House until further investigation and presentation of all options is provided to the owners. Thank you.
Bruce Grayman, or Martha Green. Sending you a prompt to unmute.
Yeah, Bruce.
Okay. So my name is Bruce Guyman. I live at 11400 Washington Plaza West in unit number 603. As a co-owner of a residential unit in Heron House, I'm concerned about the way LARCA board directors are steering the transition of the now defunct RELAC to a replacement air conditioning system. I sense the following problems. The LARCA board is advocating a Heron House conclusion before undertaking a process. The conclusion was published by WJE Structural Engineers in their December 22nd, 2025 report. To wit, the optimal solution is to install mini split systems on the balcony of each unit, unquote. Although the report states that WJE based its conclusion on, quote, review with mechanical engineers, plural, and contractors, plural, unquote, no such thorough review comparing relevant factors of options conducted by an unbiased, certified, credible MEP engineering firm was evident in either the report or to the affected parties. Indeed, I'm concerned that the unit owners in Heron House are being influenced to agree to a hasty preference that they would soon regret. Moreover, insufficient information upon which members might respond to a survey, let alone, includes no side-by-side comparisons of alternative systems have been provided that would allow factor-by-factor comparisons, especially costs and pros and cons. No drawings or specifications for any system were prepared in the absence of which no responsible contractor will agree to bid on, let alone do the work. And what periodic maintenance would unit owners be responsible for? WJE PowerPoint is misleading. No mention is made regarding air conditioning of the non-residential spaces. It shows a compact size mini split condenser without any necessary hoses, condensation drain, line, electrical communication lines protruding from it. With the sole exception of Heron House O2 unit tier, such lines, hoses and so forth, must pass through the glass walls that are approximately 60 years old. Balcony load limits should be expressed in weight per unit area, for instance, pounds per square foot, and must exceed the stated 45 pounds. Condensation would be prohibited from draining through the scupper located in one corner of each balcony and thence down the exterior chase of the eastern facade and then into Lake Anne. Instead, condensation would have to be pumped into a designated stormwater drainage pipe. I'm concerned also about the abrogation of certain provisions in the governing documents that require the association to be responsible in favor of imposing those responsibilities on individual unit owners. Does that mean my time's up?
Yes, sir. Thank you. We have Martha Green. That would conclude the list that we that staff has. If anyone else would like to speak, you can raise your hand at this time. I see no hands raised.
All right. Thank you, LaShonda. If you guys could unmute the applicant, we'll go around the room and ask any questions that we may have. If I could start with Samantha, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I do. And let me start out this. The presentation take the Lake Ann this property into three part. I think that's a smart move because the ownership and the building type are different. However, I do echo many of the affected party their concern because I think this package is quite premature. I there's a lot of information that we usually seek for. It is not presented. And it doesn't even come to the point of aesthetic portion. Just a very quick of what the system and the piping, the penetration, that will be the major impact to this historical property. So I'd say it's my general comments that I think we need to see more thorough study in order to make a sound decision and informed decision. That is my comments so far.
Okay, thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.
Camelia, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I would echo exactly what Samantha said, that this seems a little bit premature. I would personally appreciate to see some renderings of, especially for Heron House, where the units would be on the balcony. I think that would be really important to see. I am concerned about some of the comments from the residents indicating that the survey was kind of limited to 2 options, and it seemed like it was forcing residents to pick between 2 pre-selected preferences rather than having a thoughtful discussion as to the options at hand. I also do think it would be worth consulting with, certified mechanical engineer, just so we can see the impact of all of these units. And I'm also curious to know how many, not in Heron House, but throughout the community, how many people already have units in place, and if so, would they be required to take those out and conform to the rest of the units that are being installed? It just seems like we don't have a lot of information to make an informed decision, and so there's just not a lot of discernment right now.
Okay. Emily?
Thanks, Michael. I echo the sentiments of Camelia and Samantha. I would like to see some more information, particularly about, mostly about what these things are actually going to look like installed, including all the lines, condensed, there's just so much wiring and piping that goes into making these work. I will say predominantly my concern is with Heron House. The other 2 seem more or less reasonable for what we're, thinking of, particularly because of sight lines. And I mean, the DRB at the end of the day, we're not, none of us are mechanical or we're here for the aesthetics and to preserve the historical aspect of it. We can't speak to efficiency or to price point, or that's sort of not our purview. But from the aesthetic standpoint, which is what we're here to help maintain, I am worried about how this is going to look and function and not just be a chaotic little mess. So thanks.
Okay. Gazday, do you have any questions, comments?
Yeah, I couldn't unmute for a sec. I echo everybody's sentiments, but I do have a lot of questions. For my first question, basically, since this is a work session, I don't think we're approving or disapproving, but one of the things is, of course, Heron House, all of the concerns of the residents are very valid, and I congratulate everybody to going beyond their means and consulting other engineers and finding out all the information about the condensing units on their balconies and the condensation and the drainage and all that. So I'm going to give some examples. Like I do a lot of these kinds of projects in DC. These pipes, they show up on the exterior most of the time, the condensing and drainage areas, and they become bugs and critters, crawling spaces. So that's disgusting. Obviously, nobody wants that, and they already know that they don't want these units. But my concern is on, like, no one mentions Chimney House or Quayside. So there are retail spaces there, and it's just a simple graphic showing them on the rooftops. If they're 1 ton, 1.5 ton units, that are on the rooftop, they may not be visible, or they may just be visible that are the way they are right now. However, if you put, so many of them on a side. So my question is, like, what is the screening of those things, right? I'd like to see some screening just by saying, well, these were there and some people popped them on the rooftop before us. Now there needs to be a consensus, since all the community is coming together and there's going to be hundreds of these things, flying around on rooftops. I'd like to see some screens on the chimney house. I'd like to see, as this progresses, the Quayside, I believe there are residences there and, restaurants underneath. So what happens to these restaurants? Restaurants are going to have air handling units on the rooftop, if that's the method. And those are larger pieces. They can tend to be, 4 foot, 5 foot by really long, depending on the volume of them. Okay, so those are those we need to see. Coming to the Heron House, there's VRFs, and I just want to make a suggestion. If you are getting a mechanical engineer, there is a system out there for heat pumps. I know I shouldn't suggest, I don't work for these companies, I'm not even a mechanical engineer, but there's a successful system Europe uses for glass buildings and other kinds of buildings called EPOCA. It's EPHOCA. But these systems, there are many other systems, companies that actually support this sort of historic buildings renovation to, a new system. They basically don't require any large grills and just little holes on the walls, and that might actually work better for you. So might want to suggest to your mechanical engineer, once you get them, that you want to look at next generational units. That should be it.
Thank you, Coste. Mike B.
No additional comments from me, sir. I think it's been pretty well tackled, but obviously
All
this
right.
was a working session, not an approval action this evening. So,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay. Heather.
Everything that everyone's already said. Also, I was concerned when the first owner started speaking and explained that they did not have an independent, qualified, engaged MEP engineer. So that explanation of how that happened came out through some of the additional comments, but I just highlight that as a concern that we were told during the presentation that the MEP was here on the call, and the residents are saying that they don't have an MEP. So just highlighting that concern.
Okay. Well, we can ask them questions as well, so we can bring that up. Ramon, I know you live in this facility, so are you going to be speaking on this, or are you going to recuse yourself?
I'd like to make my opinion because
Yeah.
but it's up to you. You tell me.
No, you go for it. Just you will be recusing yourself from the vote, though, correct?
Of course.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So
I'd
feel
love-
free to speak, though.
Okay, I've lived here in Lake Ann for 30 years. I'm in the Chimney House building. I've put a lot of thought into this because it affects me directly, obviously. And, when it comes to Chimney House and Quayside, I think that the proposed solution could work. And I agree with Gazde, if that does become the answer, then there should be some sort of screening that kind of fits with the architecture and the color profile and everything of this property. And we have to keep in mind that this is, this is where Reston started, and this is a historic site. But when it comes to the Heron House, it's that's the icon of this plaza. And what you have to think about is there's so many different sight lines of the Heron House from different neighborhoods of higher elevation, lower elevation, and such. Having these condenser fans on the balconies is just going to be a total disaster. It's going to completely destroy the intent of the design architecturally of the Heron House, and that I just feel strongly about that. The other thing, just regarding systems, so we have to completely abandon an infrastructure system of pipes that can network through all of our units to heat and cool. And now we're going to just abandon that and replace it. But with the Heron House, it's the replacement proposal, in my opinion, is not feasible. I just don't, there's not enough room for the condensing lines, the electrical wires. Most of these units have full glass, floor to ceiling, wall to wall fenestration between the unit and the balcony. And so I think that there should be a full third party, examination of the Heron House specifically, obviously the whole community. But if it were, me to vote, I'm not going to vote, but I would say that the condensing fans on the balcony would be it would be the last ultimate choice if there was no other solution. But I firmly believe that there is a solution outside of doing that. The other thing just to think about, and I'll just end it with this, is there are common areas in the Heron House, and there is like a 2-floor kind of vestibule, kind of entryway, foyer area. How do you tackle that area? And where's that system going to be? I don't think that has been analyzed as well. But I certainly don't think that these compressor fans should be on the balcony of the Heron House. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Ramon. I'd like to ask us some questions. Is the applicant unmuted? So for the let's go to the Chimney House and the Quayside. So those units you guys are proposing right now with no screening, is that accurate?
That's what we were proposing. It has been asked before, actually, when we went to the county as a master plan. So it's not something that hasn't been thought of. So it is something that we could definitely propose. We're just trying to propose something on the roof. Ken and I had spoken about it. He didn't think it could be visible from the street, which is a big concern. But it certainly, obviously, is not off the table to propose a screening.
Yeah, I think what's unique is it's not just, from the street. So yeah, maybe from the sidewalk you can't, but what if you're in Heron House looking down at the top of these buildings now, right? Or you're up at a higher elevation, you can see them. I know we've dealt with commercial spaces here on the plaza before. I know the most recent one was obviously Deli Italiano that we were dealing with and requiring them to have some sort of louvered screening. I think there could be a nice way to have a louvered screen of some sort that they make them for mechanical rooftops to still allow the wind to go through, the unit can still function properly, and try to blend with not only the paint color, but the architecture of those. Because I do think, even as you can see, we can see some that are up there now. I don't know if those have been approved, if they have not been, if they just some of them look relatively new. Staff could probably look into it, but I think now that we're going to have so many of them, I do think screening is going to be critical on those two buildings. And what we would want to see when you guys come back is obviously heights. So these units come in a wide range of heights. We'd also want to hear what the DBAs are. What are the operating sound limits of the unit? Would also be critical knowledge to have. The Heron House, I think there's been some valid concerns raised with how we're going to get the piping to the unit. I think that's a big one. if we start having to modify these, glass fenestrations is going to be a big deal. Not only financially, but also just architecturally. It's going to be a big input, big change. So I think we need to make sure that that's accounted for. I do think that, have you guys, two questions I have, and they're kind of design related because it's getting the unit off of the balcony. Have you guys investigated the multi-head VRF system that are out there? I've designed them for hotels and other residential condos before. I mean, has that been investigated as a viable option where you maybe would have, 6 to 8 units on the roof that would supply 10 units at a time? Has that been investigated?
That's a good idea. Not that I've heard of from either of the engineers. No, that's not something. So
I know LG makes one. I know Mitsubishi makes them. I even think Daikin makes it. I mean, there's a lot of different manufacturers. So, but multi-head VRF would be, I think, a good option. The other idea I had, and I'm just spitballing here, has anyone looked at taking over and kind of basically having RELAC just for yourself, where all the piping would be, it's already there, and we're taking off, 80% of the load for everyone else that's off the system now. I just was curious if that was something that, obviously you're talking about spending $3 million. I don't know. Maybe that's an option. It's just an idea.
I agree.
But
So just so you know, we reached out to the owner, and the problem with that was that we would have to hire staff. We don't have the budget, obviously, for that. There's also a leak in one of the pipes, and we don't know exactly where it is. And at this time, it was not something that Lake Ann could afford. But we had looked into that as well.
Okay. Yeah, because I think aesthetically, I think the units on each balcony is going to be a challenge. And it's just also the infrastructure involved to get that unit there. That means every single outdoor unit has to have, I think it's like a 30 amp disconnect that's going to be mounted to the wall. That'll be right next to that unit from an electrical standpoint. It'll have the drain lines that people talked about. It'll have the condensate lines people have talked about. And so, where is that water? Are you guys just discharging that water to the balcony, and then it's just going to drip off all the balconies? Kind of how is that going to work? I think is going to be a big challenge. So consolidation, I think, is going to be a big thing. Not only functionally, but also aesthetically, I think it's going to help. So I would say, Chimney House, Quayside, I think you guys need to just provide some sort of screening that's going to work better over there. And what also screening allows is that then people can, I don't know who's going to be purchasing the units, but theoretically you could buy different units. So somebody could buy a Carrier unit, somebody could buy a Mitsubishi unit, assuming that it all fits below the screening that maybe the condo association provides, could be kind of maybe an option, on that end, right? As an idea that allows some flexibility, because I know with residential units, we're having that issue with townhouse communities, the other clusters that have lost RELAC. They've allowed basically a maximum height and width, and then a maximum sound decibel limit. And then essentially people can go get Carrier or Train or whoever fits within those guidelines. And then having a screening, I think would be key there. So does anybody else have any comments or questions for the work session? Okay. Thank you guys for coming tonight, and we'll come back with either another work session or a formal application. You guys can proceed either way. Some people will come back for another work session if we're drastically kind of changing the plan, or you guys can come back with a formal submission as well. One thing I think, staff, correct, with LARCA applications, we require LARCA board to have already approved it, correct?
Yes, LARCA would be the applicant. So yes, that would be.
So they would have to approve it. And then what was our final determination with the historical Fairfax?
So I just want to clarify, when we talk about LARCA board approving an application, that's not a requirement for LARCA submitting an application. So how they govern and how they move forward through their.
Okay.
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 And
What about the
yes, they
Fairfax
will-
board?
They will have to go to the Fairfax County ARB.
Okay. So just a heads up on those items as well.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, guys.
Thank
We
you
are
very
gonna
much. Appreciate it.
we will move on to application G, 1390 Concord Point Lane. Staff, can you explain, because there's some, before we just jump into it, so there's some items that you guys marked that we disapproved before that are still on here, but basically that those will not be in kind of the decision tonight, correct?
That is correct. So only the highlighted areas, the list for final approval will be reviewed. There were two other disapprovals that are not a part of but the overall plan included some of the information that may have been on one of those disapprovals. That's why those things were highlighted.
Okay. Okay. All right. Is the applicant here tonight?
Yes.
How's it going?
Good,
If
good.
you
Can
could,
hear me?
welcome back. If you could walk us through. Yes, can you hear me? New information or kind of follow-up information that you're supplying. We can just go line item by line item, starting with the deck floorboards and deck railings.
Sure. So good evening, everyone. So thank you for your time as well. Just the goal here, just to go through the process that I've been, trying to be fully comply with the with the DRB design review. And so I think since our last meeting in November, I have worked with a licensed professional civil engineering company to prepare and submit the requirement material that was requested. As like a certified plat, confirmation of existing dimension, and deck confirmation. As you see on the letter, as it marked, I think the request was deck flooring and deck railing material. So I provided the data sheet on page 3, and also, yep. And the next one was to provide a detail of the deck structure. So there is no change in the deck structure or size. So we're only replacing the finished material. Then I think there was a request for confirmation for the footprint remaining existing. I think I wrote a letter with the confirmation and my signature and the date of that. Yep. And I think it's yeah. Then the next one is the driveway replacement. There was also a concern about the size of the driveway. I sent the plot it's a certified plot, but a civil engineer confirming the size of the driveway. And also there is a letter to confirm we are not changing any or enlarging the driveway size. Also, there was, I think, a recommendation or optional request for a brick on the side of the driveway. I think we are taking this. We will have like a brick edging along the driveway on both sides, and I think the max width will be 12 inches. And also, the brick patio or the front patio, there was a request to provide an exact dimension. So if you zoom in onto that, the previous plat, if you zoom in on the front of the house, the dimensions and all the wall height and everything, it's provided, and also with photos, and also there was a request for landscape plan. Also was included into the letter. Respond, I think, in last page or the page before last. So overall, I think I submitted all the requested items that was needed for clarification for application approval. And I did receive the applicant affected party statement. I think there was like 2 items not into this letter, as Lashonda said. I'm willing to discuss it if that's the right place or the right time, or we can discuss it in a later date. And I do have the engineering company, the civil engineer, attend here if any technical questions or anything needed.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. Let me hear from if the affected party wants to speak again, and then we'll come back and ask you questions, okay?
Sure.
All right, staff, is there an affected party that still wants to speak on this one?
The only updated affected party statement we received is from RA, but I'm just going through the list just to see if any of the previous affected parties are present. One moment. So we have Jill and Kevin Gallagher. If you're present and would like to speak, if you could please raise your hand. Jeff and Meg Novak. I don't see them on the call either. Mike and Heather Wessel. Or Kay Schmidt. And then we have Cam Adams.
Hello, good evening. My name's Cameron Adams. I'm the Covenants Director here at Reston Association, speaking on behalf of the Reston Association Board of Directors. I just wanted to point out we did update our affected party statement, and I'll read it as it is in the package. Reston Association most certainly appreciates the property owner providing the requested information relative to this specific and concept decision. Additional clarification of the following would be helpful to be included in any future DRB decision. One being the requirement of the replacement plant material before a date certain, preferably prior to or early spring. The proposed landscape plan for the right side of the home should not be approved as that should be addressed at a later date, given the standing disapprovals on the property. Number 2, consider additional plant material in the outer retaining wall and confirmation of suitability of the redbud tree proposed adjacent to the driveway. I'm very glad to see that Emily is here to provide some input there. Number 3, confirmation of the dimensions of the brick extension accent on either side of the replaced driveway. I do think that needs to be delineated and prescribed for the property owner, since that was in their request and the DRB did support it initially. And then lastly, clarification of the brick steps leading to the concrete sidewalk on the left side of the home remains unapproved or is included with this particular request. That is the comment from Reston Association. Thank you.
Yeah, and that was one of the questions that I was touching on in the beginning, because then we, on our note, it says staff note that this left-hand sidewalk is not part of the application and remains disapproved. So that is correct, LaShonda, right? That the left-hand sidewalk is not part, left front and left side elevation is not part of this review, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, let me go around the room and see if anyone has any questions. And then we'll have some discussion. Samantha, do you have any questions?
No question.
Camelia?
No questions here.
Emily?
I have lots of questions, but maybe save me for later.
Okay. Gazde?
My question is for Emily, actually. If the 6 dogwood trees alongside the cutout patio, shaved patio on the side would actually live on a 2-foot space.
They'd be root bound. They would probably be a little bit, the question is, would they live? Probably. Would they be healthy in the long term? Probably not, but
Yeah.
their root systems are also going to push onto the neighboring property. Life finds a way and all, so they will not entirely enjoy being put into a container. So I might suggest a species that would be much more tolerant to like urban planting, if that's what we're looking at, or just something that's root ball is going to stay much smaller. But yeah, to answer your question, they'd probably live. Would they thrive? Probably not.
One, to be clear, that whole part is currently disapproved and is
Yeah.
to be removed. So, yeah, I think that was one point of Cam's letter, was that screening to him should not be reviewed at this time until a new proposed application is brought forward for what the, updated idea is on the right-hand side of the home, I believe.
Oh, so we're not approving the shaved shaved area, whatever you call that area, side yard, side patio.
Correct.
Today, we're not approving that. Is that it?
Correct.
I guess that's my question, Michael. I'm still not certain what we're even voting on today.
So what we're voting on today is the deck, is what we asked for further information, which was the deck boards, which they've provided the caramel or camel, whatever it's called, color, the horizontal cable railings. The fascia board is going to be a matching to the deck board. Confirmation that the footprint of the deck is existing. The driveway replacement, I believe they want to move from concrete to asphalt. And we basically were having them confirm the sizes. Whether we, basically if it was going to confirm to match the existing dimension, and they said they would. And then they want to do a brick edging along the driveway, which I think was my idea, to kind of incorporate the brick landscaping because they're getting rid of the concrete to go to asphalt. I think we could limit that to 8 inches, just the normal brick, soldier course basically along the edge. And then we're approving the landscaping plan.
So,
and then the front, and also the front walkway.
So what was that, that we've seen some pictures of like bulldozers going through the side of the driveway. So that work wasn't done, I guess, or it was done and replaced.
Yeah, so this application was before us a few months ago. And we basically, there was a portion of it that we approved in concept, but requested additional information. And then there was a portion of it that we completely disapproved and required removal of it. So the portion that was disapproved and required removal was the right-hand side driveway parking pad and dumpster or trash can stair area. We disapproved the left-hand walkway and kind of elevation that goes around the left side of the house. Those are 2 items that staff kind of note and say we are not approving it. And then there's the rear patio that we also did not approve as well.
So where's the brick edging of the driveway or any kind of driveway replacement proposal?
I think the idea is that it's basically they want to take the concrete driveway that you see in the pictures and we have the dimensions of now and just replace it with the asphalt. And if the applicant's on, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yes, I think there was like multiple letters that was issued, and each one addressed a different issue. So that one I think was more for the driveway, the front patio, and landscape requirement and the material. So the remaining,
the intent with the driveway though is, so if we go to slide 10, Steph, the current concrete driveway, you want to replace this with asphalt, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
So you're going to replace it in the exact same dimensions that we now have, because before we did not have dimensions. So now we know he's going to keep it at the apron size. It kind of expands out to the garage door width. And he basically wants to replace that with asphalt and then have what I recommend, an 8-inch brick soldier course border on the right side and left side to kind of blend it in with the remaining brick landscaping, essentially. Just an idea that I had, and it sounds like they want to go forward with that idea.
So where do I see that idea? That's what I was questioning in this proposal.
It's in the letter. If you look at optional, if you go back to the first page of the letter that was sent to me. Yep. If you see, zoom in, I think bullet number 4, 5. Optional, the applicant may consider.
Yeah, so these red answers, guys, they are his answers on to the letter we sent him, basically.
Okay, so now now I can make a comment that, my comment would be I'd like to see that new driveway and the brick edging shown to us. That would be my request because I know this project pretty well from other, not, just panel meetings. There are certain parts that are sort of not coming together, and I just don't want to miss this.
Okay.
Just by words, like if it's in a drawing format,
So I think if you go back to the next page, we provided a certified plot. Yep, that one or the other one. So if you zoom in, it shows you the exact dimension.
No, but where's the brick edging?
Yeah, it's just no, go down. I think this is the rear. Yeah, if you see the driveway. Yep, so this is the dimension of the driveway, so it's going to be on the edge of the driveway, as Michael mentioned. So if you zoom in, you see the driveway width, it's 17 foot and 3.5 inches. And
I got you. But I mean, it's still not showing the brick edging in the drawing format, but okay. That's my comment. Thank you.
Okay. Mike B, you have any questions, comments?
No questions, Michael. Gazde and I have seen this a few times, so I'm good for now. Thank you.
Heather?
Just a couple of comments. I note that the driveway dimension on the plat is 81.1 feet long, not 98, and it's 12 feet at the curb cut, not 17 all the way up. So I want to make sure that we are clear that those are the dimensions. That's what's on the plat. And the response in the letter is not accurate at that point. I also want to highlight in the letter, the landscaping, the request that we had was for the area in between the brick walls. It was for that front area only. So I don't see much there. Provide proposed vegetation to be installed in the areas between the brick retaining wall at grade and the brick ledge. I don't see much in the way of that. I see some trees scattered around on the plan right now, but I don't see that.
So can you just go to the landscape if you don't mind? So yeah, if you zoom in.
I see 3 shrubs and 1 decorative tree. Is that really all that's going in that area?
Yes. I mean, we are open for any suggestions, but I think that's what we're proposing.
Emily is shaking her head, I'm sure. No further comments.
Okay. Ramon?
No, we saw this back in November, and there's a lot to it. I would just recommend that any amended applications with language about a change should also be reflected in the drawings, maybe with some clouds, because I'm trying to remember what the previous drawing looked like versus this drawing, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what I'd like to do is kind of work through what items we do have in front of us. So for the deck boards and the deck railing, is there any
Michael, if I
objection to
may.
the? Oh yeah, Emily, go ahead.
Sorry. So I would just like to point out that sort of the purpose of our original request to give more information was that the applicant come back and we have a comprehensive plan so that we're not looking at this piecemeal by piecemeal, because that's how we're going to end up with a piecemeal looking project. And I would be so hesitant to review any part of this project without looking at the cohesive whole. It is like we could be approving this deck and it could be completely out of sync with what they're planning on doing for the patio in the back or the shed. And it just feels like we got a response back that, took a couple of months to get, and it was just not what we were asking for in a way that almost seems like deliberate, because this is not a landscaping plan. We have not received any of the other information that we've asked for. And right now, by even looking at the deck replacement, or even if we say yes to the driveway replacement, we're going to have them put in a brand new asphalt driveway. And then, we've said that patio in the back needs to be removed. Well, now where's your construction access going to be? It's not going to be on that brand new driveway. It's going to be around cutting through the front yard, which has already had its forest devastated by the other construction work that's done here. The current landscaping plan does nothing to address how incongruous the house is on the lot at the moment. It's not at a sense of scale. Like, there's just so much wrong here that I feel like it would be a waste of our time to review the little pieces of information that we have in front of us, because I would consider this an incomplete application. This is not providing us with the information that we need in order to make a decision. And that is my 2 cents. So thank you.
Okay. So
Seeing elements that we've previously disapproved on the plan is extremely confusing.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I
with-
agree, and I do echo Emily's. Even though Emily has not reviewed this project that many times, like Michael, Heather, and I have been through, and we just disapproved the mailbox because it doesn't match. So all of these things, there's a mailbox popping up, there's a back patio popping up, like different panels are picking up different portions of this building, of this lot, and then here we are in full design review board, and the similar case. It is a little frustrating for everybody. I'm confused with this. Why can't we get like one consolidated, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And here's a landscape plan that is appropriately showing, whatever else in wordage that is written in the responses. That's what I'd like to see.
Okay. Anyone else?
Cam has his hand up, but he's too nice to interrupt.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a couple of things clear to the DRB. One, the homeowner has technically, from staff's perspective, complied with bringing forward what the DRB specifically asked him to bring, as it relates to this in-concept approval. If there's a thought process for the DRB that they want to see this whole instead of in part, the way that the decisions were written really didn't support doing so. And so if there is a belief that this entire project needs to be reviewed in totality, then I would recommend the DRB consider deferring the application to a point certain that would allow the applicant to finalize those details, which I believe he has technically submitted, but it didn't make it for the February meeting, and then allow him to present everything at a singular time, given the confusion that I think some of the annotations and portions of the applications are including other things that are not under the review of the DRB for this particular in-concept approval. I just wanted to make sure that was clear because the homeowner did technically provide what the DRB requested, and we have to keep it consistent in terms of the level of detail and specificity that we ask our homeowners to provide. This is typically what is provided and what an in-concept review is when an in-concept review is requested. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was on the same page with that.
Yeah, and I hear everybody's concerns with, not having the whole picture. I think what is tricky is there have been elements that have already been approved that, to me, have already set the stage for other improvements that I do think work well together. Like, the brick facade, as an example, has already been approved at some point, I don't know, a year ago, let's put it this, at this point. To me, the new brick kind of retaining wall situation works better than the old stone one with that brick facade. I think what we were looking for, at least what I was looking for, was more substantial planning than what has been proposed. So to me, on that aspect, I would recommend to have a lot more plants kind of in this section that's labeled top of wall. I can't even see what it says. Top of wall. Staff, I don't know if you can point to where I'm talking about, where there's basically 3 bushes all spread out.
Top of the wall, bottom of the wall.
Yeah, top of wall 421, bottom of wall 419. That area, I think, probably needs at least probably, I don't know, Emily, 9 to 11 bushes.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to depend on the species and what they are, and
Right.
also just a shrub.
Well,
As a,
that was going to go to my next point, is we actually need a species of what planting is going back. So to me, the planting plan, I think, is not sufficient and would need to be deferred.
and also, we can't approve a planting plan when we don't know what the elements are that are going to be around it. Because if that walkway isn't going to be approved there, then I would recommend doing something like a taller tree on the corner of the house in order to help, bring things down to scale. But I can't recommend that tree if that walkway is still going to be there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, and I think giving him feedback for the next meeting, right? So let's say it sounds like he has other information to present. He just didn't get it in time for this meeting. So I think if we give him a little bit more feedback on, hey, this landscaping plan is a start, but it needs to be a little more robust, a little bit more specific, I think is some feedback we can give. I think, to me, the deck elements, he's confirmed the size, he's confirmed that they're just replacing the boards and the railing. I'm okay with that from a design standpoint. It's a single family detached house. I think it works with the color of the siding. I'm not too overly concerned about those replacements. I think the driveway, I do think that, his goal was to get, the driveway approved. I do think it's a fair point with the construction. As soon as you put asphalt there, it's going to break as soon as any vehicle, other than a car, drives over it. So I would agree with you, Emily. It's probably not prudent that he does any of the work beforehand, but I do think what he's proposing is approvable. I do agree with Heather that the dimensions do need to be clear, that it is a, let's call it a trapezoidal shape. It is not 17 feet 3 inches all the way to the front. It is only 12 feet at the front, and then gets wider at the door. I think I like Cam's idea. I just think that we need to word the deferral to kind of give him a little bit of feedback, so that way next meeting we get a little bit more information on some of these things that we're looking for. I would be okay with approving the deck tonight, but it sounds like as a board, you guys don't really want to keep splitting things out. So I'm only one member, so
May I
that's
ask
my
a question?
Yep, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So just to be clear, so when I provide the next information, that's exactly what you guys need. So I think for the deck, I kind of like fulfill all the requirements that you guys want. The driveway, so you just need the exact dimension from the front on the yard, on the front and the back, which is, I think, if you go to the next sheet, if you don't mind, yes, that one here. If you zoom in, so that's showing you exactly the shape of the driveway.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think your answer to the question on the letter, I think I would just say C certified plat. Don't put a dimension on the answer,
Yeah.
because I think it's confusing. That's all.
Because the plat was sent with an update. Yeah, so that's why. So
Yes.
then Gazdia mentioned she wants to see the side bricks. So we will just ask the engineer to highlight the side bricks on each side of the driveway to make sure it's only 8 inches with the same material. And I think the next one, the front of the house walkway, which is that Emily mentioned, if that's going to be there, yes, it's going to be there. It's not going away. So she just need the landscape on the portion of the walkway in front of the house, where it's kind of like the half a circle.
Well, to be clear, we're talking about the walkway on the left.
Yeah, I think she,
Which is
so
that's on the other letter, addressed on the other letter. That's why I think there's a confusion, because it was kind of like divided into different.
We need the plan to match what you're actually proposing. We need the things that are not going to be part of the plan that we've already disapproved to not be on the plan.
So
We need
all
to
the
know
plans
what is
have this.
existing and what is proposed. We need to know what are the existing trees, what are the existing shrubs, what are the proposed ones. We need to indicate the shed is existing, the deck is existing, the new deck will match this dimension. We need it to be very clear.
Yes, I agree with Heather. And yeah, I would love on that note and talking about like the details that we'd like to see on the plan. I
So
would
again-
like to see what is existing. We have chestnut oak tree. Are you planting that many chestnut oak trees, or are those just
So
there?
if you go back to the next page, I think there is no, above. Go to the top. Well, yeah, right here. So this shows you what was existing and what's the new one. And I think we wrote a comment.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It
They're
just,
all the same. And that's what we're asking for. There's a tree in the
okay.
picture that is not on your plan unless it's one of those chestnut oak trees, but I don't know that because it doesn't tell me.
So we'll kind of like give you a count of what's existing and what is going to be a new ones on the next landscape
you
plan.
should have the locations of existing trees and then the locations, the species, and the sizes of the new proposed landscaping. I would also recommend writing down quantities for us so we're not having to sit here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on a plan. Regular plant schedule, if you hire any landscape designer, is going to be able to put a landscape plan together on here. Because I do want, and I just want to make sure that it's appropriate. Part of our patios, walkways, hardscapes, guidelines is that we like to have vegetation around them to soften them so it's not just grass straight up to built structure. I would like to add on that note, because it's going to affect the plantings that are there. I would like to know what the drainage plan is with the front. Where are the downspouts? Are they going to be routed out? Are they just dumping out at the base of the house? You know, will there need to be any kind of like decorative rock? Like this is all, you know, I don't even see where like planting beds are. Are these going to be in independent tree rings, or are they going to be in a bed that's filled with mulch? Like this is all stuff that we would typically require on a true landscape plan. And this was just a tree replacement and we were saying, hey, give us, you know, rough idea of canopy. That'd be one thing, but that this is not a landscape plan. Especially again, taking into consideration that the landscape isn't reflecting what we can approve today. Because if I approve this landscaping based on a walkway and a patio and you know steps that aren't there, then those things never get approved, then the landscaping wouldn't make any sense for what we're trying to approve. So I think the long and short of it is you know, if we make the motion to defer, that we need a lot more information about what you're looking to, what's existing, what's proposed, sizing, spaces, species, quantity, and then I would like to also see drainage plan on here. Again, just what you're planning on doing with the downspouts. We can kind of see where the contours are going, but I don't know if you're going to have things extended, where they're going to be dumping out to, anything of that nature. All right, Michael, sorry.
So, yeah, so just so it's clear for him, just because let's say he wants to move forward with, what we did in concept approve. What I think what would make everyone's life easier, and it kind of touches on what Heather said, is basically remove from the drawing what has been disapproved, because I think that's confusing everybody. So then if your intent is to just get what we have in concept approved formally, then the other items need to be removed to show what the final picture will look like. If it sounds like there's some new information that you're going to be presenting potentially next full board meeting, if these elements are coming back in play, but you're going to be modifying them or landscaping them or doing whatever your plan is for them, then we would want to see all of that together. in the next submission as an example. So I think there's kind of those two elements that I want to make sure that we understand, because he could just apply for the approved in concept items. And I think if he had come back today with just those items on here, we maybe would have been able to get to a decision. I just want to make sure that he knows we're not, we're giving him conflicting information is basically, I want to make sure we're not giving him that. So to be clear, if you do want to keep moving forward with the in concept, just bring, a clean plan that removes all the disapproved items. Or if you're planning on keeping all the elements but modifying them, we need a full comprehensive plan showing everything that we would need to review all at one time. So
But
it's sort
some of the, Michael, some
Yeah.
of the items, we keep saying remove them, but he built them.
No, I know, but there is a current disapproval with a requirement to remove by a certain date on elements. And staff, correct me if I'm wrong, right? You guys said there was another application that came in that was too late that is addressing some of those other elements that we asked to be removed. Is that correct?
That is correct. That were the storm management drainage plans.
Right. So my point is, I think we need to see all of this together. What I want to be sure, though, is that we don't see this again next time we have more information on it. So what I'm going to do is just make a motion to defer with the all the comments that I just said. I don't need to repeat them. And we can talk about it in a cohesive manner for everything that's going to be staying. Whatever's going to be removed needs to be removed from the plan so it's clear. And that way we have a full idea of what's being asked for on the next submission. Do I hear a second?
So just one more thing, sorry, because I think, as Adam said, because you guys kind of like divided into three letters. So what I provided for each letter, what exactly was asked. So now the ask is to come back and combine everything in one plan, or how?
No. So the ask is, if you want to move forward with just the things that we approved in concept in that one letter, you need to come back with a plan, though, that doesn't have any of the other elements on it because it's confusing.
Okay.
So the problem is that if you want to move forward with those items, then to me, it's not worth your time creating a new plan, removing those items, and then coming back get those approved and then come back. Or you could create two separate plans if you prefer and come back again with the updated. And so that's essentially what my deferral is saying, is that you can either come back with an updated plan that only shows the elements for in concept, or you need to come back with a more cohesive, all-encompassing plan that asks for all the disapproved items and all of the in concept, all addressed in one new cohesive plan.
So what was everybody's preferring? I think I'm just gonna do two separate plans. One it's in concept and one addressing the other ones. Because to me, the plan you've seen, it's showing the in concept and the addressing the other plans, which is, I heard that from everybody, they were kind of like confused. So I'll just break it down into, go ahead, Heather.
Because it's confusing because I don't know why we're talking about applying for things that have been disapproved. Is there a petition process? Do you just come back until we say yes? What's the process?
So I think on this one, there was no disapproval. They just
No. You had two letters that said disapproved.
So
You had
I
two.
can answer that question, Heather.
Thank you.
So there were three letters. This one was in concept approval for the specific modification. There was one disapproval specifically for the right-hand side brick patio, whatever we're going to call it, and the walkway that leads to the side of the home. And that was disapproved and required to be removed within a date certain. The second disapproval was for the left side of the property, which is the concrete walkway from the front all the way to the side, to the rear, and the patio. The technical process was that you all disapproved the second one for the left side and the rear patio, but you allowed the applicant to submit a plan to modify that disapproval. The first disapproval, which is for the brick that was encroaching on the neighbor's property on the right-hand side, you did not provide a method in which that disapproval could have a plan submitted. So that application was in fact disapproved. However, I believe the homeowner is trying to come up with a different plan simultaneously for the right side of the driveway and the home to address the encroachment area as well as any other aspects that were disapproved. Procedurally, a new application would be the correct method because it was technically disapproved. He cannot submit a follow-up unless the DRB stipulated that explicitly in their decision like they did for the other disapproval. That's something we can work with the homeowner on. That's not a big deal. He's already tackling that issue with the enforcement arm of Reston Association. And so he is attempting to work through our process to make that happen. So technically, he can't put everything back together because that's not procedurally how it should work since he did receive a disapproval for the right side of the property. But of course, his plan is to modify it so he could submit a new application and he could put it all together. That's not an issue, especially if this particular element was deferred. It's really just about how the DRB made the decision in November.
I see it, Cam. Thank you. So I guess with all that being said, then I would want to see a new application with the complete plan that you're proposing all on in one application. I understand the in-concept approvals are there. We've asked to defer that and we're giving you what we would want to see to defer that. But I think what makes the most sense to me is to see everything on one piece of paper. And my colleagues can disagree or agree.
It might take more than one piece of paper, but I get your point.
Fair enough.
So yeah, and that's and essentially why and just so I'm clear with my deferral, I'm giving him the two options because technically he could just get the in concept or get the full approval for what we already conceptually approved because the process, we've already split it up. So what I'm trying to allow him is to get, his deck approved, his patio or his front walkway approved and his driveway approved because he could ultimately remove all the other elements because he's currently disapproved on them. They would be infractions. Now, one is being required to be removed because it was on a neighboring property line, so we required that one to be removed. The other one's required redesign to basically be more harmonious and more in keeping with our standards because they were on his property. They just, to me, weren't executed correctly. So that is why, I'm giving him that option. I think he's gonna, ultimately, I think they're gonna figure out a way to try to modify the elements that are there because that's obviously easier than removing them. And so I agree. That's why I'm saying the other step part of the deferral would be if he is going to be keeping the left-hand side element and the rear patio, which it sounds like he has information on that. We want to see it all together and be more cohesive than what we see now. But I would want to see the right-hand side removed. And Cam, it sounds like you're saying procedurally you could put it onto this application, but it would be a separate, I think because the neighboring property is so involved with that one, I honestly think it should be its own, as much as I hate to do it, almost its own element because I hesitate to, right now, just initially only removing 2 feet of it, it's still not approvable, just in my opinion. I think it needs to come back substantially to even get to the sense of approvability. And so I worry that it's going to complicate the whole process if that keeps remaining on the plan, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense because of the way that the decision was written. So, you know, I think it's going to complicate things for the DRB if you're always going to try and consider something that was disapproved with no ability to have what was disapproved actually be approved. So separating out that particular element is going to be helpful. But I do think that because of the continuity of the project, the it's somewhat connected, but then somewhat not connected, and I do think that that's going to be consideration for the homeowner to have to determine how best they'd like to proceed with submission. But I do think it should be separated because it would be cleaner for the DRB to be able to review and not cause any further confusion on what you all are making decision on.
Yeah, so then I would amend my motion to defer that the right side driveway extension, walkway, stair side, the right elevation of the home, all of that be, because it was disapproved and required to be removed, that it is going to be requiring an entirely separate application process. It needs to be removed from the resubmission to address these other elements that are in concept and required of resubmittal on the left-hand side and the rear side of the property. So there's a motion to defer. Is there anybody that wants to second that, or you guys want to have any discussion on it?
I don't think we should give the option of, I think if we're going to defer this, we can say yeah, it's conceptually approved, but part of the caveat of the conceptually is that we need more information. We do this all the time with a new build. Yeah, it's conceptually approved, but we need all the bits and bobs that you're going to put on it. So it's not saying that you can't put the deck up, but we just need more information to know. Because, for instance, I know we were talking about it with tree canopy. We've asked for the back patio for there to be an arborist report done, and that includes the condition of the trees in the front, which is going to affect, because they've been run over by construction equipment, which is going to affect the landscaping plan that we then put into place, as is the drainage. So if we're there, to me, there's no way to not look at this as a comprehensive plan with the state that it's currently in. If this was a scratch project and the house was just there and he said, I would like to put in a front walkway, of course, this would be an easier conversation because we wouldn't be dealing with the kind of knock-on effects of having to look at everything as a comprehensive unit, because we'd have that ability if we weren't looking at this in retrospect. We'd be able to say, like, well, this design decision, you put the front walkway on, well, now you want to do a driveway. That totally makes sense. And we could make these decisions one by one if they were all brand new and non-existent. But we're dealing with extent, we're dealing with removals, and we're dealing with, particularly with things like stormwater and canopy coverage, the whole property taking into consideration. So what's been done to the backyard affects the front yard from a perspective. And I don't feel comfortable saying, let's continue to review this piecemeal. So I would second the deferral if we have everything come back with at least a comprehensive plan. We may be able to approve like we do all the time. We approve elements, A through G, and have them broken out, and we might disapprove an individual element of a given application, but I'd like to see this as one application.
Okay, so I can understand you're saying. So let's say I'll amend my deferral to require that the in-concept items be combined with the left side elements and the rear elements as a full resubmittal package, but that the right side is still needs to be its own application because it needs to be completely removed from the plan, and until there is a separate application submitted, we are not reviewing that side, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. And if there's is there any other conversation or any other questions on that?
Well, we can, if you second it, we can still have
I
further
second
discussion.
it. I second it. All right. Any further discussion?
So anybody else have any comments on that?
The separation, I think, is going to make this easier when it inevitably comes back one more time. I think we need some clear distinction and delineation of what we're doing. So I'm with you. I'm with you, Emily.
Yeah, and I also think it helps with the, affected parties and the neighbors be able to, kind of stay in the loop for that portion of the application. Because I think everything else we can kind of work towards a resolution. Okay, so all those in favor of the deferral say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes 8-0. All right,
One question.
yes.
Okay, so just because I think it's not clear for me or my engineer, he's on the line. If you on the right side walkway, I think we were looking at the design guidelines, and when we said 2 feet setback, is more information that we need to look at? So when we do the walkways, because we looked at the driveway design, we looked at the walkways, everything says it's a 2 feet setback from
So,
property.
yeah, so that's a setback, right? So, but the issue is I think the width is to me too wide for what is needed on that side of the property. And then what that width is causing is also the height. So then the height of the wall on there is probably what, 4 to 5 feet high. And so the issue is that it's a compounding issue as you go out farther. So before, what they had there was a man door with like a little deck landing with some stairs, correct? Which was what originally was there. And you've essentially leveled it out and now concreted and bricked all that. So I think with our guidelines, we would want to see, typically this would be set into the contour of the grading. It would be much lower. So it would maybe step down from the driveway as it goes around. There would maybe be bigger, longer landings that would more create a terracing effect. And then you could screen kind of that whole right side and have a more substantial planting bed for whether it be some sort of evergreen shrubbery or whatever along the property line. And that's how our guidelines, they may have a 2-foot setback for patios, but that doesn't necessarily apply when the item is becoming so tall and so wide for such an element that is just for walking and for maybe some storage of trash receptacles. Another thing we would recommend is to screen trash receptacles. So if you were to have some sort of fencing or something to help screen it, that would also be something that would be in our guidelines to be recommended, especially when they're in the eyesight of the neighbor.
So just with the proposed removal, so that sidewalk, it will be, I think, a 5 foot wide, no more than that, with the proposed demolition. So I mean, I don't think a narrower than 5 foot is going to be.
Well, I think the issue is that it says 10.86 feet is what the current wall is, and if you only propose to take 2 feet off of that, it's still going to be 9 feet wide.
So that 10 foot, it's to the property line. It's not the width of this sidewalk.
Well, it's pretty darn close at the moment.
Yeah. So I think the other plan on the other letter respond, I think that's where we specified the new width. So then now based on the new submission process, we'll kind of like divide it and make it clear for everyone how wide is that walkway is gonna be and the heights of the wall.
And then I would also say that 6 dogwood trees is not the correct landscaping screening per our guidelines. That's going to be too, like we spoke about on earlier, that's not really going to screen what we're trying to screen. What we're trying to screen is kind of that wall height, and then potentially the trash cans or whatever might be there, right? So you would want to look at maybe hollies, or Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe skip laurels, maybe something like that. That would be a little bit more evergreen, would be more of a bush shrubbery type, and would screen more adequately than a dogwood tree would.
And Michael, I would like to point out, I know it is not our purview, but if that wall that is technically a walking surface, and if it's over 30 inches, it is required to have a railing. Now, where this comes in for us, as well as the steps, the number of risers, is they will need a railing in order to be code compliant. And we just need to know if you're going to have a railing there, what kind of railing is it going to be? This is part of things being comprehensive. But right now, the wall is too tall. It needs a railing on it, and we don't know what that is. And that's also going to increase the visual height of that structure from the neighbor's property.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And that's why sometimes terracing is kind of a better option, where you have a longer landing of 6 feet or so, then you have 2 stairs down. Then you have 6 feet of landing, then you have 2 stairs down, because not only does that help lower the height of the structure, but then it also removes some of those railing requirements, et cetera. So that's why that walkway on the right side, to me, needs its own application. It needs to be completely, fully restudied. And, even if just shrinking it down to, 5 feet wide, that to me is not the solution, unfortunately. I think it needs much more substantial redesign to get to an approvable state per our guidelines. Okay, I hope that helps. I am not seeing anything else on our agenda. Does
So-
anybody? Yep. Oh, yep.
Sorry, would you mind if you just let Anwar, he's on the call, just to speak up? I think he texted me. He just I think if you can unmute him, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Anwar, are you here?
Yeah, I am. And now I was. How you doing, everybody? No, I was have a question before, but now I think it's too late already. They've been deferred for next time. But I will help you. I will, if you need anything to address those issues. I've been listening, and if they have a question for me, they can ask me. But now I don't have any question for them.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you being here, and I think hopefully you take our feedback and can work a solution to help out your client.
Yeah, I will.
All right, great.
Yeah,
Thank you
very much.
All right. Do I hear anyone has anything else? Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I hear a motion by Mike B. Do I hear a second?
Second by Heather.
Second by Heather. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any against? I hope not. All in motion passes 8-0. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, y'all.
Staff, as always. Thank you, LaShonda. Thank you, Cam. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Julie, whoever else is on. If I forgot you, I'm sorry. I can't
Thank
see
you.
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.